number of other educational enterprises. So we're glad she's there, even though we miss her here. We're sorry for beginning a little late, so I hope you'll bear with us. Let's see, we do have a quorum. So, and we have a motion to adopt the agenda.
So
And
moved.
we'd like to move, oh, go ahead.
I'd like to move up the update on the strategic plan to after the enrollment report.
Terrific, okay.
I move we adopt the agenda as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The President's report.
I'll be very brief. As you mentioned, we are busy with the legislature. We did have our SFCC day at the legislature last Thursday. We gave away 1,000 cookies in less than 2 hours, I understand. I know by the time I got down there were no cookies. Anyway, we had about 10 students who shadowed legislators for the day, and the feedback I got from the students and the legislators that worked with them, it was great. We had 2 of our academic all-stars that were recognized at the legislature, Benjamin Lucas and Yuri Finley. They've been named to the 2015 New Mexico All-State Academic Team. That's sponsored by Phi Theta Kappa and the New Mexico Independent Community College Association. We had a group of, how many went to Achieving the Dream? 8, 7? We had 7 people go to the Achieving the Dream conference this past week and have gotten some good feedback from there. We will be starting the food truck, the Street Food Institute program here later this semester. And it's going to be, we're going to have a food truck that's going to be able to be at the Higher Education Center and some and around town. So we're excited about the food truck program. And we just got notification yesterday that we have received another AARP Back to Work 50 Plus Social Innovation Fund grant. It's going to be just over $186,000 a year for 3 years, and we have a chance to even request for more years after that. So we're excited about that. Our Veterans Resource Center has moved to their new location. They requested to be in a little more out of the way location. That's not our usual request, but we have accommodated that, and they have moved into the area that was where Highlands was located downstairs. They actually like to have a place where they can kind of be quiet and amongst themselves. So that's worked. And through the foundation, we had a Valentine's Day dinner on the day before Valentine's Day last week, and it was very well attended, and it raised scholarship funds for students to go study in Italy this summer.
I have a question concerning the food truck. I'm on the committee for Santa Fe Bandstand. And is the food truck going to be going out more at all into the community or just to the HEC?
We hope it goes more into the community. We are working with the city to try to get some ordinances changed. And
Okay.
Councilor,
Who do we contact as part of the committee so that we can get the food truck to possibly go down to the plaza on one of the music nights that we have?
your first contact would be Dean Camila Bustamante. She's in charge of the program. They'd be very interested in doing it. We have to get some city policies changed or amended.
But CNM has already done that, because their trucks are out there.
Well, their truck was at the legislature, but their truck is in Albuquerque, and the program started in Albuquerque, unfortunately, because we couldn't get permission in Santa Fe to locate around.
Well, I'm confused about that, because this Santa Fe Reporter had a long article about them.
Yes, they were at the legislature on last Friday.
They were there today, too.
And they were there again. They have been to the legislature. They can get approval to get on state property,
Oh, I
on
see.
city roads and city
I see.
property.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that's a quick report from me. On the enrollment report, we talked about this earlier today. We're pretty flat in terms of head count now, and we're just slightly down. We're only 60 students down from this point last spring, but we're down just over 9% in student credit hours, and it's something we're watching, but it is a trend that is happening at most colleges throughout New Mexico. And should we have Josh do the strategic?
Is that your report?
That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Josh, you want to do the strategic planning report?
Josh and Julie.
Julie?
Madam Chair, members of the board, President Grissom, thank you. This is a treat to be so early on the agenda. I won't, don't worry. You have an update as a part of your packet today, and I just wanted to go through that quickly. We're a little over halfway through our annual planning cycle. And so recently I've met with each of the leads and each of the goal areas so that we could go through the progress that we're making towards the milestones in each of those goal areas and talk some about some of the successes that we're seeing, some of the challenges that people are having, and in some cases looking at strategies that maybe need to be tweaked a little bit so that we can see more progress through the remainder of the planning cycle. I was very happy with the outcome of those meetings. Some of the things that we saw that were challenges in the annual report that was presented to you in August that we're beginning to see being addressed. I was really pleased to see some movement on these things. One was in the area of adult education. We had some concerns last August, partly because of the new high school equivalency tests that have been put into place, and the outlook for that was not good in terms of the numbers of students that we were going to see completing that test. The state has since approved a new test, and so we're hoping that we'll see a slight improvement over what we were expecting for this year, but next year that should be back on track, those numbers. So we're really happy about that progress. Continuing education was another area of concern in terms of their enrollment numbers last year. That's looking much better now. I understand that particularly the Sunday courses in the fitness center are really helping with that, so that's great. We're also seeing a lot of movement on the faculty and staff evaluations, which is an area that was not a lot of progress last year. There's a team that's been put together to address the faculty evaluations, and there's movement on that. Where part of that group is also looking at the idea evaluation that the students do of faculty members and moving that online just to help with the whole process and the data collection for that piece. So that's moving ahead. And staff evaluations, I understand HR is making proposals for how we can move ahead with the staff evaluations as well. Also very pleased to have a lot of movement in the area of data collection for both the Office of Finance and the Office of Human Resources. That was a real concern. Again, last August, there was not a lot of movement there. Things are really going now, and we're hoping that they'll be, actually, I believe, completed with some of that by the end of the fiscal year, but some of it will continue on, but it's looking really good. The area that we're still seeing a lot of concern, and this goal area is continuing to meet, will be continuing to meet, is the engaging the employees in the workplace. That covers employee satisfaction, employee engagement, communication, collaboration, and shared governance. And so we're going to be just continuing to look at that area and trying to come up with some new strategies here in the last few months that hopefully we can see a little bit more positive movement in that goal area. So things are looking really good. We're also have made a great deal of progress here recently with the division level strategic plans. I'm happy to say that those are all completed with the exception of the foundation, which is very close, so we'll have that one done very quickly as well. That's turned out to be a great process, and I'm really pleased with the work that's happened in all those divisions. We'll be moving on to do some very streamlined planning at the department level as well, and so that's the next step with that. So I stand for any questions.
Questions? Chris?
Having been involved in GED for many years, I went to the adult education conference last year, and they were really concerned about the GED testing center, their new test and stuff. Nationwide figures, did you guys get any that people are changing to the new test throughout the nation? Or is it, because I heard that it was, pretty much the state of New Mexico just was losing so many students, really, that it was so difficult that they were changing to the new test. It's a nationwide movement changing to the different tests, or no?
Well, maybe Yash can address that. I'm not sure this is the Pearson test that was first chosen by the state of New Mexico.
Let me answer that just a little bit. I know a little about it. So most people adopted the one test, but most states are now adopting more tests. So there's more opportunities, and many states are now creating their own. The cost, not only did the test change and that created problems the way it was going to be administered, but the costs went up substantially.
So are you talking about the college entrance?
Both. I'm mainly talking about the GED test.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I just those things have just all these entrance tests and stuff. It really does hurt that student that is not. You have to be above average to pass the test. You can't be an average student, and that to me is a problem.
Another thing to keep in mind is also that some of the new tests proposed was only administered through an online program, so not all of our students are comfortable in terms of taking a test in that particular format, and so that added to the concerns that the adult education people had in terms of the success rates of the tests.
I would also say that many of the colleges are now moving to multiple measures to address exactly that problem, that where people used to be placed in developmental ed solely on the basis of those tests. They are now moving to what they're calling multiple measures, which means that they're looking at other things, involvement in school, background, survival skills in other environments. All of those things are being considered as not necessarily alternatives, but as taking the strength of the test as only one of those measures. Anything else?
Can I quick?
Go ahead.
Just a quick question, actually a request. So you talk about in your report the graduation task force, and I've heard little parts and pieces about it. I don't know if you guys have more information or if it's something that we can ask in a future meeting that we maybe put on the agenda and have a quick update on.
You might want to ask a few words, but I think it would be a great topic to have presented.
So the graduation task force was put together by President Grissom, and it's being led by our director of Center of Academic Transition. It's a very good cross-sectional team. It's not just from Center of Academic Transition, it's also from the registrar's office. It's people who are the deans, the VPAA. I mean, there's a group of people from cross-sections across the campus who deals with the students on a regular basis. They're coming together, and now they're looking at what kind of strategies can they actually implement in terms of improving the graduation rates. One of the things they've recently done that actually was particular of interest to me is they actually looked at the cohort of who's actually included in the first-time full-time degree-seeking population, which is included in the graduation rate. And then they tried to come up with strategies to actually increase the outreach for those students so they could actually improve their success rates. I think President Grissom has mentioned in the past that our graduation rate just to increase 5% isn't really that big. I mean, in terms of raw numbers, it's not just I'm sorry, I apologize. If you're improving even a couple number of students, that could potentially improve the percentages for the graduation rates. And so one of the things we've recently done is we've asked both the first-year success, director of first-year success, as well as the director of Center of Academic Transition to come with us to the Achieving the Dream conference. And they were really engaged and energized and ready to bring back new ideas and strategies to really work into this graduation task force to improve different measures. I'm sorry, one other group I didn't mention really is the faculty members. There are a group of faculty members who are also on the task force working closely with us.
I have a request, and that is that when you give us, one of the things that, as I read your report, and I was glad to hear you're talking about some specific strategies that you've been working on, but it would be really helpful, I think, for us if you could just supply us with a list of the strategies and maybe a number or a statement or something about where that strategy is, because as I read your report, it was a great summary. but I was left thinking about what are the strategies that they're using on these particular topics.
Yes, I'd be happy to. We actually have for every single KPI, there's an associated strategy worksheet that lays out not only the strategies, but the milestones and the dates that we're trying to complete those milestones by. So I'd be happy to provide that to you so you have a better picture of where we are. Yeah.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just have a question. In regards to the instrument, is that, particularly in the evaluation of the faculty and others, were faculty and others involved in the development of the instrument?
Well, I could just speak briefly about that. The task force is actually looking, as I understand it, looking at different models that would be appropriate in terms of the faculty piece. Is that? I'm sorry, you had it.
You talking about faculty evaluation?
Yes, yes,
He's talking
yes,
about-
yeah.
Oh, okay. Apologize. Yes, so that team will be looking at appropriate tools. The idea of the student evaluation of faculty, that's one piece. And so that team will be looking at, what are appropriate pieces that can form the entire evaluation.
Margaret, do you have a?
And faculty have been involved in every level of that. So there was a group of faculty that participated on the original committee that chose the idea instrument for student evaluation of faculty. And that is the thing that we're trying to move online. It'll probably be next spring, eventually, but hopefully more of a group in the fall. And then the rest of that evaluation process is peer evaluation, supervisor, 360 sorts of evaluations, and that's the piece that we do not yet have buttoned up. We're still operating under the old system, and so we have a task force of folks, lots of faculty, and they are working on coming up with some, some options for that to present to us. We have
And this has been declared.
substantial say.
Thank you.
And this has been declared as an ACOP action project. So it's an official project to report to the HLC.
Terrific, great. Thank you to the two of
Thank
you.
you.
And get to feeling better. We can't afford to have you sick.
Okay, Madam Chair? Need to do the Employee of the Month awards?
Employee of the Month.
All right, the Pass It Forward Award. So we have Barbara Sandoval, who's our senior cashier, nominated Megan McGarity, who's our scholarship coordinator. So come on up front.
Madam Chair, board members, my name's Barbara Sandoval, and I'm a senior cashier in the cashier's office. Can you guys hear me? I don't know if
Do that a little closer to you.
I was the Pass It Forward recipient in December, and so I had to make the decision on who to give it to for January. One person came to mind right away, and it was Megan McGarity. Megan works in financial aid and has the responsibility of deciding on who gets Dream Keepers and Students Helping Students scholarships. And I do know that's a really tough job to decide, to go all through all the paperwork and letters and everything to decide who they give it to. And I know her job is very hard. I would not like to have to make those decisions to give people money, because everybody should be able to have those scholarships. So I gave it the Pass It Forward in January to Megan McGarity. And thank you very much for your work. Thank you.
This was a pretty wonderful recognition to receive. I work closely with Barbara a lot, and we are in the front lines working with students who are often facing challenges, and so it was really good to get that recognition. I've been back to the college. I left the college back in 2012, and so I've been back to the college now since June of last year, and it's a wonderful place to be and a wonderful community to work with, and I am thankful every day that this is where I get to work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
efforts. It makes a difference. All right, the Wild
The
Grapes?
Wildgram, so Angela Ortiz nominated Shane Sweeney, who's from our Palm maintenance area. I don't think either one of them are here.
They were not able to be here, but on the nomination form, Angela Ortiz said of Shane that, thank you for adjusting the furniture in my office. She said he's definitely committed to his coworkers.
Great, thank you. Do we have public comments?
He left.
He had to leave to go to his class, but he's been trying to get on the agenda to speak to you guys about the Southeast Connector Road. He has some
Oh, okay.
things that he'd like to say, so, but he is not here.
Madam Chair, maybe we should suggest at the next meeting that we move the public comments up if we know that he has a class later, and that we could hear him if he's been trying to do that and has a.
He has been for several meetings, so, okay.
Let's make a note to put that in first thing, right after the approval of the agenda.
Okay.
Okay? Do we have a faculty senate report? I don't see a faculty member. Guess not. Do we have a staff senate report? I know they submitted material, and no one is here. Student government, you're here. Great.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, member of the board of Santa Fe Community College. In the last month, at the beginning of this semester, we are working in few activities we're going to celebrate in the college. We are now coordinating the activities of the Earth Week or Earth Day. Also, we are working to make the organization of the Spring Fling for the students. We approved also the bylaws of the subcommittees we create in the SGA, like the subcommittee of Transparency Committee, the Budget Committee. Also, we create the subcommittee of Sustainability, and also we create the subcommittee for handle the complaints or the concerns of the students, too. And also, we are working to create another big activity in any moment of this year. We don't have any date specific, but we are having a committee with some professors helping us to bring here Mr. Clarence Benjamin Jones to the school. We are working in that way to try to encourage the students to participate in the activities and also create community with the students in Santa Fe County too, with all the organizations. Other thing more, we are now working in create some. I have to say, it's not a program; it's a protocol for transition between SGA to another SGA, and that protocol wants to be also with administration because we want to involve the financials, what's going on with the SGA funding, and how to handle the SGA funding for the next generation of the SGA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Questions?
Can I ask this is a question of ignorance. So who is Clarence Benjamin Jones?
Oh, Clarence Benjamin Jones was the second one in the organization of Martin Luther King. Oh. And he was the lawyer and advisor of Martin Luther King. And he's the person who advised and write the famous message.
Dream.
They have a dream. That's right. And we have one of his sons is a graduate person from here, from the trade technologies, Dana Jones. He's a good friend, and he very interested in offering a speech, and we want to create this diversity forum here in the college. He wants to do it for free. In some way, we only need to handle the tickets for traveling tickets from the Stanford University for here. And the hotel, and she's going to be very glad to give him a speech and introduce him to the student and the community. I think it's a good opportunity. He's an elderly person, but he's very clear in his mind, and we have a good opportunity to bring here to the college. I think that's a good opportunity to expose the student a great speaker.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a comment. I knew Dana because I'd been his advisor and we'd worked. And at graduation, when he graduated, he brings up and introduces me his father. Had no idea who his father was, and then I found out about his relationship with Dr. Martin Luther King and his involvement in the civil rights movement. So he tried to have a low-key participation to show off his son who graduated, but it'd be great to have him come back.
Wonderful. That's great.
That's great. We are working on that, and we hope so. Mr. Deborah Bowles is joined to us to help us with the foundation to bring this person here and working together also for raising funding for the scholars foundation here for the scholarships.
So you don't have a date yet?
We don't have a date yet because we need to work in the forum, and we don't want to pressure us. I think we have maybe in May or summer or in the next fall, we can bring this activity to happen, and we want to other organizations in Santa Fe can be joined to us, and like CESA Club and all, it's a big activity. We want to put Santa Fe Community College in the map. You're like member of the board working in big college, and we try like SGA try to building student community, and and we need to bind them together, these ideas, and working together to bring a speaker, great speaker here, some exposure to students to this good experience, like this kind of people,
If any of the board members have suggestions of groups that might serve as co-sponsors, we should get them to you.
Oh, that's
I can think of a couple
great.
right off the
Thank
bat.
you.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. Back to the Senate minutes. I had a question that maybe you can answer, Mr. President. How does their financial oversight committee that is mentioned in the minutes relate to the new proposed, I guess the policy isn't proposed yet, but, yeah.
Madam Chair, I was confused about that when I read the minutes too, and I did talk to Clark about that. I think what they're really talking about is the board finance committee, in which faculty and staff Senate representatives serve on that committee. So the best I can tell, that is their request. Also did have a concern about them saying they'd made some financial requests and had never been responded to, because I let them know that I have never received your request. And if you do have a request, it needs to be in the form of writing so we know what you're really asking for. And they weren't real sure what the request was either.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Let's see, we're looking at the approval of the consent agenda. Basically, those are minutes and matters related to SFCC policy final reading. We don't have any. So we would entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda. Any comments about the board minutes or?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? I have a question that's not about the consent agenda necessarily, but it sort of fits in. When are we going to get a report on the audit?
We approved the audit in the January.
But there was to be a follow-up report on it.
I don't know what that would be. So
Okay.
An exit conference?
no, we had the exit
You had
conference.
the conference.
And then we approved the audit at the January meeting, and the Ray Roberts from the auditing firm was here.
Oh, that's right.
Okay. I thought that
I'm not.
Commissioner, that member Cedillo had asked for something else on the audit. No? Okay.
I did, but I forgot.
Well, I'll go back
Well, it
on
must
this.
not have been too important. All right, thank you. Okay. Oh, we haven't voted. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There's the non-consent agenda, the approval of the financial report.
Nick?
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, President Grissom. Before you, you have the management discussion and analysis as of January 31st. And I just would like to briefly go over the financial summary section of that report. At January 2015, instruction and general revenues are up $2 million, or 9% compared to last year. Expenditures are down $986,000, or 5% compared to the prior year. Ending fund balance is $7.1 million this year compared to $3.3 million last year. The substantial positive change is an indicator of improving financial health for SFCC. We have salaries down, salaries expense down approximately $500,000, and also substantial decreases in the amount of $816,000 related to supplies expense, equipment, and utilities, and that is a function of the President's financial stability plan, watching those expenditures very, very closely. I would also like to just mention that I had a communication with the county treasurer's office, and they notified me that in January, property tax collections are up 0.82%, and less delinquencies are being issued in the month of January. So that means that our projected revenues for local appropriations are should be on target. And with that, I can stand for any questions that you might have.
We had quite a discussion about this in the work session. Any questions? Okay. Move approval? Would you move
So
motion?
moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We have no purchases over $100,000. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick.
To report. The Santa Fe Community College report. Deborah?
Madam Chair, members of the governing board, President Grissom, we had a very, very good first 6 months of 14-15. And I have, I don't know if that's up, but you have a copy of my report, perhaps? Or maybe it's coming?
It's up.
That's it.
Oh, okay, great. Very good. Yeah, our revenue was over 1.6 million, an increase of 1,660,000 from the previous fiscal year. Our investment income was a little lower than last year at $292,467. That has everything to do with the market. But last year, our investment income was very high. Our income, our new gifts generated were not quite as high as they are in the first 6 months of 14-15. We received some sizable gifts. The largest ever received by the foundation, $650,000 from the Brindle Foundation, and that was specifically directed toward the Early Childhood Center of Excellence, our first endowed directorship. It's not actually a faculty chair, but it's a directorship, and the $500,000 was directed towards establishing that. In order for it to pay out 5%, which is what we're awarding now, of our invested, our dividends and gains from our investments, we would need approximately $2 million for it to pay at the salary level. So we are working on building that, and with the help of the donors, because they are also trying to bring other donors to the table, and we feel confident that we will build that. They also included $150,000 to get started as soon as possible. And I know a job description has been created, so that is moving along very nicely. Other major gifts, and I think you might have heard this at some of our board meetings, $190,000 for unrestricted purposes from the estate of Dr. and Mrs. Harold Brown, and $250,000 from an anonymous donor who wishes to have this benefit students, scholarships for students in technology and trades, nursing, and emergency medical services, with preference to individuals who've been employed in the hospitality industry. That's a lot of the population of Santa Fe. So that's going to be wonderful when that starts awarding a year from now. Consulate of Mexico doubled their gift to us. They gave us $10,000 last year. This year they gave us 20, which we've already matched with 20. That is so, it's just so much benefit to our students who are of Mexican origin or descent. And we are hoping that program continues. Our year-end appeal generated twice as much as it did the year before, with $200,000 in new gifts, which we, for the most part, will use for matching funds. So we have quite a large obligation to provide matching funds for different grants and programs. New donors increased by 40%, which was very good. That has everything to do with our database management that Kelly Smith is doing, and the way that we're reaching out to donors now and keeping them engaged throughout the whole year. The whole year is called the annual appeal, and the year-end appeal is the one where people write the checks. But we try to keep in touch with them. And 503 scholarships were awarded in that period, which is wonderful. And Megan McGarity, who you just heard from, is responsible for awarding that. She doesn't personally award it, but she has a committee that makes a decision on every one of those applications. So it's a very fair and transparent process. Revenue, we were asked to reduce expenses. We did, $14,000 less than the year before. We also prepaid most of our expenses to help out with cash flow. But so this will be adjusted at the end of the year. However, we do have some big ticket items coming up, which is in August, we pay the scholarship award amount to the college. And then have some other vendors which hadn't been paid in quite a while. So they're getting paid too. I just wanted to give you some highlights of board and staff activity. The board of directors of the foundation has become a very energetic and engaged group. And we're very grateful for this board's representation on that with Dr. Romero and Mr. Cedillo. Including them, we added 7 new members to the board, so it's a huge leap forward. And we've never really had the kind of engagement that we have now with our board. They've always had 100% giving level, but in terms of the work level, it's just a whole new board, and it really is exciting. We have a new affiliation group called Amigos de Santa Fe Community College Foundation. And they've been busy under Ken Dettelbach's leadership, reaching out to the business community in particular. As a matter of fact, we have Walgreens coming tomorrow. And we are really trying to approach businesses in Santa Fe and Albuquerque that are interested in having a partnership with us. Walgreens, we met at the signing of the MOU in Albuquerque with the Mexican consulate. We met the regional manager, and so he's coming with some of his managers from Santa Fe, and they're very interested. They want to support our vaccination program, and we're going to explore what those possibilities are. We were really very honored to work with the Veterans Resource Center for that wonderful luncheon, strengthening community by honoring service, and having the 3 commanders of the subs here. It was hard getting those subs around those traffic circles, but we're going to try to do it again, and that was great. Like I said, we have this new database, and it's made a huge difference on how we communicate to our donors. It's called Bloomerang with an L. And we also hired Linda Castle. All of these things happened in that last 6-month period of 14-15. We were also asked by the president as one of the fundraising priorities to raise money for professional development, and we were able to do that and assign $30,000 for that purpose. I believe a process is being developed for how that money will be allocated. And, you know, the rest of my report really has to do with thanks, because all of this happens with a lot of input from a lot of people. I'm particularly grateful to this board for your involvement and for the commitment that you have to joint planning, to joint strategic planning, to communication that has really developed and expanded. So thank you for that. I think that a lot of thanks has to go to President Grissom, because he is well respected and trusted in the community, and I think that has a lot to do with why we are getting increased donations now and increased donors. But everybody here is involved in fundraising, whether they know it or not. Every time a faculty member speaks to a student, every time somebody does something on the behalf of the college and the community, all of that translates into fundraising. We are only as good as the college, and the college is very, very good. So I expect that we will continue at this level, and we're going to do everything possible to make that happen. So I open up to any questions that you might have.
I have a comment. I don't know if there's a gentleman that many years ago, when I was in the activities office, he approached me to do a scholarship for his son, who tragically died at a very young age, and his son's name was Coco Maxwell, and he had a golf tournament and stuff. Well, Charlie, the father, just died this past week, and I just wanted to recognize him, and you know, I don't think he went through the foundation, but he would give a small amount to students. We worked out something where he could give a check to certain students so they can go to school, and I think that Charlie Maxwell was a great guy, and I don't know if what's going to happen with the fund, but if I can contact his wife, who is a former nurse at Christ St. Vincent, to see if maybe something can be transferred into the foundation, so that memory and that can continue. Charlie Maxwell, I don't know if you guys, Pablo, you're saying you knew him. He's a great guy, man, a great guy, and just such a big advocate for so many students here in Santa Fe. And I wanted to recognize him, first of all, as a board member, but also as a friend, that he did a lot after his son died. He did a lot just to bring out education for students, and for doing that little bit of the scholarship for, I think he did 4 or 5 students, gave them a few $100s so they could come to school. And I think that's great, and I just wanted to remember him. He just died.
Member Abeyta, I'd be happy to speak to his wife. I'd be happy to write a special letter to her. If there's, we set up endowments every day these days, particularly in memorial to someone. And so I'm happy to discuss that.
See, because I don't know what's going to happen with the Coco Maxwell Fund, and if the golf tournament's going to continue, and if they're going to want to continue doing educational stuff. I think it would be a perfect because she might not be, into it, but she might want to continue it, and it might want to continue as a type of thing that we could do through the foundation. Anyway.
Happy to speak to you about it. Anything that I can do to help.
Great, thanks.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to add to the comments that Member Abeyta stated about Charlie. He was an extraordinary person. I think it was beyond his giving money, scholarships to young people. He was really an inspiration to young people, and not only did he provide the scholarships, but he was kept them in school when they weren't ready for that scholarship. So, and through athletics, and a very sort of quiet giant that I think really made a big difference in this community. And I was proud to have been his friend.
Thank you both for that recognition. And I'm sure you'll follow up.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I just want to say, I want to thank Deborah and her staff for the extraordinary work that they're doing. Very professional, and there are many meetings that are being conducted. They're well organized. We're having a membership orientation on the 13th of March. There's been a good response. People are anxious and wanting to be part of it, and I think that's what is making it successful. And I know President Grisham, with his tours, has always been very good. People are tasting our great food that has been prepared by the culinary department. In fact, I was asked this last week at the legislature that they says, I've heard you've got the great culinary place. He says, well, I'd like to go on tour. So I'm setting up a tour for you guys, President Grisham, so they can come back and visit and see what a great college we've got.
Thank you so much, Member Cedillo.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
We've already heard about the strategic planning update. So we're matters related to SFCC policy. First reading, let's take them one at a time. The information security policy. Chris? You're here for the first two, right?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, Mr. President, members of the board. For first reading in front of you today is 8-3, which is SFCC Information Security Policy. It's a little bit long of a policy because it covers a lot of areas that is regarding information technology, and not just information technology, but also all of our systems in place. So just to give you a background, the purpose of this is to have a comprehensive policy that defines and outlines the security necessary to protect our information resources, which will have a significant effect to the college, both financial and in stature. The first step is for due diligence, is to determine if there is an adopted policy for securing information at various levels. The scope does not only cover data stored in electronic files or devices, but it also covers physical documents containing such relevant information. So the highlights of the policy is the proposed policy are the following. One is defining the role of each office or department in safeguarding and maintaining data or files that has sensitive and confidential information, such as personally identifiable information like social security number, a number, telephone number, and so on. The college's commitment for making the students and employees aware of information security, preventing its occurrence, and if it does happen, which I hope it doesn't, we are prepared on how to handle the situation. Enforce our information security procedures, not just for our students and employees, but also for our contractors and vendors. Develop a mechanism for securely handling, transmitting, and receiving documents and files with personally identifiable information. Develop a written procedure in compliance with APRA requests, and limit the extent of use of personal devices to access data with sensitive information. And just to give you a background, our lawyers have reviewed this policy back in March 2014, March 25th, 2014. The executive team endorsed its approval in October 28th. SGA did their review October 29th, the Staff Senate in November 5th, and the Faculty Senate February 6th, and then the Shared Governance Council 2 weeks ago. I'm open for any question regarding the information security policy.
Questions?
Just a quick comment. You know, in the policy overview, we talk about the fact that how much harm can be caused to the college and the college community, but we don't really talk specifically about students, which in my mind is really the primary reason why we want to protect information. This is confidential information of students that we're probably is on the biggest list of things that we're worried about being breached. And I would love it if we could just say that out front in the policy, that this is a policy that protects our students and their information, which we're all very concerned about doing.
Will do, ma'am. We'll include it in the policy overview.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? I want to thank you for a really outstandingly well-done policy. But as you know, I'll have two format questions. Under B and D, which are big paragraphs, it would really help if you made them into independent sentences so that they're numbered separately, so that in 2 years when we come back to this policy, we can find it easily instead of having to go through the whole paragraph in order to do that. And then under V,
Do you prefer to have it like bulleted items like A, B, C, D?
A, B, C, yeah, rather than bullets.
Under A.
And then under V, if instead of bullets you could use numbers or letters again, once again, that just helps us when we're having to refer to it. Okay? But other than that, I was very impressed with the work that you did. Thank you. And the second one is on email.
So this time it's about the SFCC electronic mail policy. So just to give a background, we have an existing policy for student email, which is 2-24. However, we don't have one that governs the proper use of email for faculty and staff. So when we were trying to draft this policy, what we decided to do is to have a more comprehensive policy that not just cover faculty and staff, but also covers the students as well, so that we only have one email policy, whether it is for students, whether it is for employees. So this will also serve as a guide for students, faculty, staff, administrators, consultants, and the like, in making sure that they follow our procedures and our rules in terms of the official use of the SFCC email system. One of the highlights, or some of the highlights for this proposed policy, is to first remove the specific vendor's name in the existing policy for student email. This will give us the ability to change our email system in case there is a new email system that is more beneficial for our students. Second is it empowers the college to protect our email services that resides on personal devices. Third is to develop the procedures regarding legal discovery and IPRA requests. Fourth is manage the administration of employee emails with access to distribution lists, so that we have a more managed way in making sure that only select people will have the ability to send emails to all faculty, all staff, all students accordingly. Fifth is to reinforce the use of SFCC email for official communication, particularly for those with sensitive and private information. Next one is to define email delegation and access to an employee mailbox and the responsibilities accorded to it. Define the mailbox size of our email system. One of the limitations we have on our system right now is we keep on adding and adding hardware because we don't have an existing practice or policy in terms of defining how much mailbox size an employee has. Unfortunately, just like physical mailboxes, it fills up. And right now, since in the absence of a policy, we cannot give restrictions to our email. So emails for like 10 years ago are still there. The next one is that define the retention procedure for our employee email. So it can either go, it's a double-edged sword. It can either be going our way or against us if we limit it. But under the law, we are only required to keep a certain number of years in terms of our email system, and the same with our other electronic records. So, but in the absence of a policy, we have to keep everything from 2000 to 1998, if I'm not mistaken. And explore new technology that can be used for managing and administering our email system. So this email policy will help us address all of those. And the same with 8-3, the proposed 8-3. It went to our lawyers' review, went to the executive teams, SGA, Staff Senate, Faculty Senate, and Shared Governance Council at the same time as 8-3. Any questions?
Questions? I have to say, I'm impressed that you got all this through the faculty senate with the archiving and the ability to review other people's emails and all.
They had a little bit of comment, but I think that their comment is valid. It's more towards the copyright protection of copyright. That is, for example, if they have a copyrighted material that they sent through their students through our email system, and they just wanted to make sure that that attachment that they did in our email, in the email that they sent, is protected under IPRA. That's the only request, and I think they were the faculty was a little bit was very cooperative, although because of the winter break and so on, it took a little bit longer for us to have it approved.
Congratulations. I'm interested in the fact that nowhere in this policy is the board mentioned, and you do have us on your email system. So I don't know whether it should come under the email for employees or the email for non-employees. I initially thought, it should come under non-employees, but I don't know if that's correct. Randy, do you have?
I think we ought to look at that and add, I think the board should probably be treated the same way we would do administrative staff.
Okay.
And so we just may want to say,
So-
it's a word, so the administration, including elected board members or something.
Would it be okay if on the scope and applicability, we include in here members of the governing board?
Sure. I just think somewhere in the policy.
You can probably add it in that sentence. I think.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So, as of now, the board members are somehow covered, right, in terms of our privacy as to what we, our emails that are sent?
Let me add that. Your emails that you send on using your Santa Fe Community College assigned email account
Right.
is subject to the same public information records as employees.
Okay.
But we probably should just add, I think adding the scope of applicability might be enough. We'll look and see if there's one other place we might want to put it.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next first reading is on the Santa Fe Board Finance Policy. And I have quite a number of comments, so I actually created a document that I think I should distribute so that we can all look at it at the same time. Donna, would you, if you can give one to the members at EO, I think we have the rest of them here.
Thank you.
Okay. So let me go through this because you may have comments about it after I do it, and it would be good. So first of all, in the policy overview, I think we need a statement of what's the intent of this policy. So I've added a sentence there. It provides a framework for collaboration among all college constituent and governance groups.
Do the name change too, don't forget the name.
Oh, thank you. And I looked at this, the SFCC Board Finance Policy, and I went, there's something wrong with that. And I scratched my head for a bit before I realized that this is not the college's finance policy. This is a committee policy. So it is. So I've added a name there. So to make it be the Santa Fe Community College Board Finance Committee policy, so that it is clear that the finance policy that comes in the financial section is somewhere else. Okay. Under the policy statement, I think it's important that we indicate that this committee, as important as it is for all of us, does not in any way, that the board does not delegate its authority in making fiscal decisions. And I didn't see that anywhere and thought that it probably needed to be called out. Not so much for this board, which is fine, but we have 2 years from now, 3 years from now, it may make a difference. And then if you go to the policy process, I did some formatting, which I will give to to Donna to get policy corrected. But I added, under monthly duties, I added a statement that says the board committee members shall each month summarize for the entire board the substance of the discussions of the committee. I know at least Member Cedillo and I have worried that we don't get enough information to make informed decisions. And so it would just help us if the committee members could do a summary of what the discussions were about. And then finally, under, what is it, C, what I now am now calling D, but it's the entire committee shall review the institutional budget prior to, and I have added to that statement, if you go, prior to review by the president, because nowhere in this policy did we have anything about the president's role in this kind of budget review. Review by the president and presentation to the full governing board for discussion and possible action. The board retains the authority to change or modify the budget as presented. Once again, I think it's important to note the incredible fiscal responsibility that board members have in this. So those are the changes that I would suggest that we look at and maybe include in the final reading. So any of you have any comments or questions or disagreements?
Madam Vice Chair, I really applaud you for those oversights that were not in the policy, and I think that it's important since the board ultimately has the judiciary responsibility to the college and to our constituents that we should not only review, but in going through the president to ensure that we're going to make those decisions that are actually have to do with the financial aspect of it.
Anything else?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to make a quick comment about, I think it's really important, this policy is really important for the college. One of the really important things it does is breaks down what's included in each one of those budget categories, which is actually really important for us from a long-term, I'm going to sneeze. Sorry. From a long-term perspective, that we know when we're talking about certain budget categories and we look and see that things have changed in the budget, that we know that the same things are being measured under that category every year. I think for stability and long-term planning in the budget process, and also for transparency, to be able to see what's there on an ongoing basis, that's important for the board to have. So I just want to, I'm very supportive of this policy going through, and I think it's a big step in increasing the financial oversight and the information that the board and the campus has about the budget process at Santa Fe Community College.
So are you suggesting any changes, or are you affirming what's here?
I'm affirming what's here.
Okay.
Yep.
So we don't have a motion on this because it's a first reading.
First reading. Madam Chair, if I could just make one comment, I just want to let everybody know the definitions and the process. It comes straight out of both the higher education manual, and it's very similar to what UNM has in one of their policies. And we just thought, we just realized we didn't have these definitions anywhere.
Yeah, they're very helpful. Okay. All right. Anything else that needs to come before? Any board reports? Other business? If there is none, the next board meeting is March the 31st.
Just to remind everybody, that is not the third Tuesday. The third Tuesday would happen to be during spring break. It is the fifth Tuesday in March, just because that's the only day we could work out the meetings.
And then we'll have a budget work session on April 15th. So
And the April board meeting is April 21st.
Okay. With that, do we have a closed session? We do. Okay. So I would entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Oh, it has to be more than that.
Oh, okay, well, you go
You have
ahead
to
and read
say
it.
the words.
Read it.
Madam Chair,
You move.
I move that we go into closed session for purposes of discussion of pending or threatened litigation pursuant to 10-15-1H7 NMSA 1978, employment claims involving administrative complaints or claims and issues in case number D-101CV 2013-03032 and case number D-101CV 2014-02295.
You do that so well. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye, aye, aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.